Hey everyone, it's Jack from Cultaholic.com and it's Friday. Gotta get down on Friday. It's time for, let's address the green screen. Okay, so obviously I'm presenting in front of a blank wall today. There will be pictures, however, I'll just explain, right? Obviously I live with Owen, one of our editors, and we were very kindly loaned a green screen by another one of our editors, Dan. And then that green screen broke, didn't it? So apologies to Dan if he's watching this. Sorry Dan mate, but we have ordered him a new one, so the company's got your back. It's made things quite inconvenient, I can't lie. But for now, we're gonna have to make do until the new green screen arrives. So without any further ado, let's just take F's in the comment section, by the way, for the green screen. Let's take a look at my wrestlers of the week. A few honorable mentions. I think Sasha Banks has been killing it this week on various different brands. She's been really entertaining, really good, and I cannot wait for her Extreme Rules match against Asuka. I think Asuka's gonna win, but I still think it's gonna be a really good match. Some good performances on NXT and AEW on Wednesday as well. Let's just shout out SCU for their part in that wonderful tag team match, and over on NXT, Johnny Gargano and Finn Balor for their part in what I thought was a really dynamic and unique main event against Keith Lee. And it would be remiss not to mention the comedy match over in New Japan in the New Japan Cup between Hiromu Takahashi and our favourite Toru Yano. Takahashi won by a count out after he threw Yano in an elevator and just set him to a different floor, and then hobbled back to the ring because he was taped to one of the young lions at ringside. Honestly, I'm not making it up. I didn't just dream this. That's actually how they booked this match. And it kind of worked. So, without any further ado, let's crack on with the top 10. And number 10 this week, oh my god, I'm so excited. Number 10 this week is bloody Luchasaurus. He's made it onto Wrestlers of the Week. Luchasaurus picks up 1 point for what I thought was a really fun opening to Dynamite this week. Himself versus Wardlow in that lumberjack match, which got a little bit out of control. The reason I say that is because they headed out of the ring up to the stage. Luchasaurus and Wardlow were throwing guys off the stage. Wardlow got knocked off the stage, and then Luchasaurus with a shooting star press off the stage onto the crowd of people below. Excellent stuff. Sometimes, I always say this, sometimes wrestling's simple and you've got a massive guy who wears a dinosaur mask kicking people in the head and doing flips. It's that easy sometimes. So yeah, I really enjoyed this performance by Luchasaurus, and I can't wait as well for that tag team match that they've announced for Fyter Fest. Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy taking on MJF and Wardlow. Congratulations to you, Luchasaurus. 1 point, and the beginning of your Wrestlers of the Week journey is now. Number 9, it's everybody's favourite handsome New Japan boy, Kota Ibushi. Several handsome boys in New Japan. Kota Ibushi, possibly the most handsome of them all. Ibushi got through to the next round of the New Japan Cup after picking up a win, squeaking out a win I should say, against his regular foe, Zack Sabre Jr. Now obviously if you've ever seen a match between Ibushi and Zack Sabre Jr., they can often be described as unconventional. And the reason for that is because of Zack Sabre Jr.'s technical offense. They're often on the ground a lot, on the mat I should say. There's a lot of exchanging submissions. Ibushi often tries to fire up and, start using the strikes that he's so feared for, and then Zack will grab a leg and ensnare him and drag him back down. And that's basically the pattern that this match followed as well, at least for the most part. But despite Zack's really wily submission game, it was Ibushi who was able to come out with the victory, kind of picking up a flash victory with just a small flurry towards the end of the match, which I agree with. I think Ibushi right now is too high in the New Japan pecking order to be crashing out in the first round. But as we'll see a bit later on, one of the very top dogs of New Japan also crashed out in a different first round match. But Ibushi progresses on to the next round, and really I think he can be considered one of the favourites for this tournament. However, I wouldn't consider him the ultimate favourite because I don't think, but I could be proven stupid here, I don't think they'll book him versus Naito in that title match, the winner of the tournament of course gaining #1 contendership status. That's because Naito and Ibushi have clashed so many times in the past, just in the past couple of years really, and I think they might want to give it to someone else, maybe like Ishii is my personal pick to win this thing. But this was a good first round match between Ibushi and Zack, to get back to the actual match I'm talking about itself. Not the best match of the New Japan Cup so far, but still a decent one, still a good one. Probably not as good either as the other Ibushi-Zack matches we've seen in recent history, but it sounds like I'm being negative now. It was a good performance, a good week for Ibushi, and he secures 2 points. Number 8, the other half of that lumberjack match against Luchasaurus, and the winner of that lumberjack match, MJF's bestest friend in the whole world, Wardlow. I've been really impressed with Wardlow despite him only getting limited time in the ring in his AEW career so far, and I don't even disagree with that. I think it's right to only occasionally have him partake in matches here and there. That's because when he does then participate in a match, whether it was that steel cage match against Cody or that Battle Royal that he was in recently, it's a bit of a spectacle, it's a bit of a special attraction, like, oh, Wardlow's in this match, what's going to happen? And that's what we saw here as well, with, as I mentioned, quite an out-of-control lumberjack match with guys getting thrown off the stage. When Wardlow threw Marco Stunt off the stage, Marco Stunt got air. He got hang time. Wardlow gorilla pressed him upwards, and Marco flew up and then down onto the crowd. It was a staggering spot. But unfortunately for Luchasaurus fans, sorry Jen, it was Wardlow who picked up the sneaky victory. What happened was MJF distracted the ref from a pinfall attempt from Luchasaurus. Jungle Boy ran across the ring and speared MJF off the apron, but then with the ref's back turned, Wardlow nailed a low blow and hit Luchasaurus with the F10. A very impressive feat on such a big guy, by the way, and picked up the sneaky heel victory. You hate to see it, but also because I like Wardlow, you kind of love to see it as well. Number 7, let's go to WWE for the first time in this video, and let's go to Monday Night Raw and talk about the Empress of Tomorrow, Asuka. Asuka defended her Raw Women's Championship against Charlotte Flair, which got a lot of people nervous because if they hadn't read the reports that Charlotte was taking time off for surgery, which she now is, you might have thought, well, Asuka's going to lose because Charlotte beats everyone. But Asuka didn't lose. She beat Charlotte, she beat her clean, and she made her submit as well. That is a pretty big deal and certainly is worth some points on Wrestlers of the Week. It was a good match, of course, which kind of goes without saying because they're both pretty good wrestlers, but also there was a little bit of an undercurrent of storyline going on as well, which did slightly take away from Asuka's victory and prevent her from picking up a few extra points this week. That story was, of course, the fact that Charlotte was kayfabe injured in a brawl with Nia Jax earlier in the show and carried that injury into the match with Asuka. And Asuka, fair play to her, targeted Charlotte's injury ruthlessly, you might say, but at the same time, I don't think that makes her a heel. I just think that makes her a really competitive and intense babyface who wants to keep her title reign going. And as I mentioned at the very start of this video, Asuka's next opponent for that title is Sasha Banks at Extreme Rules. I can't wait. I think that could be a really brilliant match, possibly one of WWE's best pay-per-view matches of 2020. In fact, yeah, I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be that good. I might be jinxing the match, slightly cursing it. I hope not, but I'm really looking forward to that one. So well done, Asuka. 4 points for you. Now let's speed on down the road to the next person on this list. We're going back to Japan, and I don't know if you can tell by my demeanor, it's not someone I'm looking forward to talking about because I hate them and they're a dirty heel. Number 6 is everyone's least favorite member of the New Japan roster. It's bloody Taichi, but I could not deny him any points on this week's Wrestlers of the Week because what did he do? He beat Hiroshi Tanahashi in the opening round of the New Japan Cup. You've got to give him credit for that, as much as I hate him. Yes, Taichi was matched up against Hiroshi Tanahashi in the first round of the New Japan Cup and beat him. And I saw a lot of people saying, well, you know, once Tanahashi and Ibushi were in the bracket next to each other, they were never going to meet in the second round. One of them was going to lose their first round match because they're both tag champs at the minute, and people were saying they wouldn't let the tag champs go at each other. I disagreed fully. I was like, no, it's going to happen. They're going to have a rematch of that G1 Climax final they had. I was wrong. I was really wrong, and I'm a fool. Yes, because while Ibushi did overcome Zack Sabre Jr. to move to the second round, Tanahashi did not overcome Taichi, and it wasn't even an entirely dirty victory for Taichi either. The closing stretch, where Taichi whipped off his trunkaroonies and nailed Tanahashi with a few big strikes and then beat him clean in the middle of the ring, it was heart-wrenching. And now, despite not feeling that emotional pull towards Tanahashi that many New Japan fans do, I felt a bit sorry for him, because when you lose to someone as despicable as Taichi, you do really feel sorry for that guy. That's the whole point of Taichi, of course. When I say I hate him, I don't actually mean it. I just mean that he's a very effective heel. Kind of in the Baron Corbin mold in terms of, oh, you don't want to see this guy win, I just hate him, go away. But if Baron Corbin was booked well, if Baron Corbin was booked better, he'd be more like a Taichi figure, I feel. Of course, Taichi does sing his own entrance music and wear a very ornate mask when he comes to the ring, so maybe he's not entirely like Baron Corbin, but the similarities are certainly there. They're both tall as well. So begrudging congratulations to Taichi. Now let's cross back over the Pacific Ocean. We're going that way around the globe. Back to NXT this time, and we're going to talk about Keith Lee. Don't you forget about... Oh my god. Yes, this week's number 5 is Keith Lee, still the NXT North American champion. He is a really good main event style wrestler. You always know when Keith Lee's in a big match against somebody, it may start off slow and then it'll just build and build and build, and there'll be unique spots, and by the end you'll realize, wow, I've just watched a really good wrestling match. We've seen it on grander stages before, such as the finish of that Survivor Series match, the finishing stretch where Keith Lee almost lasted right until the very end. We've seen his magnetic sort of charisma in matches such as the Royal Rumble, where he came out and had that showdown with Brock Lesnar. But in NXT, when he has these more fully realized longer matches, that I think is when Keith Lee is at his best. And it was certainly a unique situation as well. The main event of this week's NXT, if you didn't see it, was a triple threat match for that North American title between Keith Lee, Gargano and Finn Balor. An absolutely stacked lineup. But I know you might be thinking, well, that's not that, unusual, a triple threat for a title, even if it does have 3 massive stars in it. Yes, I agree. But if you weren't aware with the wider situation of NXT, the winner of that match would go on to face Adam Cole in a big title versus title winner takes all match. So the stakes were really, really high, and Keith Lee overcame. He beat his 2 smaller, wilier, more heelish opponents, and even though Balor's kind of a face now, but he's still a bit of a dick too. And I just think that it was a really strong, big guy babyface performance from Big Keith. And I'm really excited for that match against Adam Cole I think it's in 2 weeks' time. I think it's the second week of NXT's Great American Bash, which is just coincidentally running very simultaneously to AEW's Fyter Fest. But I'm sure that was a coincidence. There are rumors abounding that Adam Cole's contract is nearing its end and that he may be setting his sights on AEW. We don't know anything about that, but it would be exciting, wouldn't it? It would be certainly a big seismic shift in the wrestling landscape. And if that was to be true, then we could find Keith Lee being a double champion of NXT, and that also would be a very exciting situation. Number 4 this week, we're going to AEW. We're talking about, for my money, the best tag team in the world today. Of course, it's FTR. Let's talk about Cash Wheeler first. So, FTR took part in that excellent tag team match, maybe my second favorite match of this week, I think. That excellent tag team match against SCU, Daniels and Kazarian on Dynamite, and just absolutely stole the show. It was what FTR do best, which is like old school strategy and tactics and psychology in a tag team match with new school pacing and moves, and it was all blended together so well. Not to take away from what SCU did, because they also played a really good role in this match, but obviously FTR were the stars of the show here. They picked up the win at the end, and it was just a phenomenal performance. One of my favorite bits of the match involved Cash Wheeler, actually, where Dawson went to do a sunset flip. He had his opponent, but then the 2 SCU members grabbed each other's arms across the top rope to prevent him falling into the pinfall. So Wheeler just hit the ropes, vaulted over someone's shoulders, and just landed on both of their arms, stopping it from happening and allowing the sunset flip to commence. Do you see what I mean? I've explained that so weird, but I think it was really effective in the moment. And of course, after the match, we got the horrific revelation that the Butcher and Blade had stolen FTR's truck, and also we learned of that really exciting match coming up at Fyter Fest, the match I think that I'm most excited for across both weeks, which is of course FTR and the Young Bucks in an 8-man tag against the Butcher and the Blade and the Lucha Bros. That should be absolutely unreal. I'm fully expecting FTR and the Bucks to pick up the win and then maybe brawl at the end or something, and then eventually they'll have that big dream match that we've been waiting for so many years now. But for now, I do quite enjoy that they're taking it a bit slowly. They're not rushing this match. Hopefully, although it looks a bit optimistic, but hopefully there'd be fans back in time for that big FTR Bucks match, because that match deserves to have a white hot crowd. So yes, that was, I'm talking about them both in the same kind of thing. But let's go on to number 3 now, which is Dax Harwood. The reason that I've given Harwood 1 extra point is because he cut that promo at the end. They both had really good performances in the match. I had to separate them somehow, so I just thought, well, Harwood cut the promo, and that gives him the edge. It wouldn't have been that way if it had been just any promo, but it was a really good promo as well. Harwood said, we're not, the typical look for a successful guy in pro wrestling. We're barely 5'10". We don't have that athletic background that JR loves so much, but we are the baddest tag team around. And I was watching this like, yes, come on. That was me at like 2:30 a.m. on a Wednesday night. I hope my neighbor upstairs didn't hear me. So a huge week for both members of FTR. The reason that I'm so excited as well isn't even just that Bucks tag team match whenever it eventually comes around, that dream match. Because AEW's tag team division is so stacked with talent, there are so many teams they could have a 5-star match against. I mean, Lucha Brothers is one example. Obviously the tag team champions Hangman Page and Kenny Omega, the Bucks match. They could easily have another excellent match against SCU a little bit further down the line. There's so many possibilities, and I'm really excited to see where it goes. Next up, let's get to number 2 on this list. We're going back to New Japan, and we're talking about one of the most terrifying singles wrestlers in the world today, the Dragon, Shingo Takagi. Shingo occupies a very weird position in the New Japan roster, but also a very effective one as well. I'll explain what I mean. So the point of Shingo is that I don't know how he was ever in the junior division, look at the size of him, but he's this absolute powerhouse who also has speed and just throws terrifying lariats and has big power moves, but has all the agility of a junior as well. And he's just an absolute killer. That's his role in New Japan. He terrifies anybody he comes up against, particularly if they're smaller than him. He could easily be a future IWGP Heavyweight Champion. I think he's probably going to be an IC champion at some point maybe, but obviously he's involved in the never openweight scene as well. There are so many different directions that Shingo can go in because of this strange position he occupies, where he's not a bona fide main eventer yet, but he is still bizarrely one of the most strongly booked guys on the roster. But the reason it's so effective, particularly in the case of Shingo, is because when he loses, it puts the other guy over so huge. We saw it in the Best of the Super Juniors final last year, where Ospreay beat him in the final in that match of the year. Well, it was voted match of the year in that incredible contest. And a lot of that match's success was down to the fact that Shingo had destroyed everybody in the tournament up till that point. And then when Ospreay won, it seemed like the odds were so much greater than they even maybe were. So Shingo's great when he wins, looks like an absolute killer, but he's even better potentially when he loses. And he lost this week in the first round of the New Japan Cup. And not only that, he lost to a member of the juniors division he recently left. In terms of the in-ring performance as well, obviously Shingo was absolutely great. He brings such an intensity to his matches that few others, even on the New Japan roster, maybe the most intense collection of wrestlers in the world today, even in that roster, I don't know if many people bring it to the same level of Shingo Takagi. You could argue maybe Ishii, Moxley when he's there, Suzuki on occasion, Okada in a big grand match, but when it comes to just week in, week out, putting on these huge matches, Shingo's the guy to go to. So 9 big points for Shingo this week and second place on this week's Wrestlers of the Week top 10. But I'm gonna have to put the man who beat him one spot ahead. So let's talk about my Wrestler of the Week. Number 1 and my Wrestler of the Week is Sho of the Chaos faction of Roppongi 3K, formerly known of course as Sho Tanaka. And I checked the stats, this is his second time being Wrestler of the Week. I suspect the last time he was Wrestler of the Week was also when he had another great match against Shingo. Because sometimes you find 2 unlikely people on a roster who just have an incredible chemistry together. In this case, it's Shingo Takagi, this really experienced, veteran of the Japanese scene, against a much younger, predominantly tag team based guy, and they just click in the ring like nobody's business. The fact that Sho and Shingo had a bit of a history a year ago, and then it was kind of forgotten for a while, and now it's reared its head again, made this match so electric, because when the brackets were announced, you looked down it and you were like, Sho and Shingo, they had a great match last year, it's almost certainly going to happen again. And it totally did. Sho's victory here, it was such a fiery babyface performance. He's really got something about him. He's really got a spark. I feel bad for Yohei Komatsu, his tag team partner in Roppongi 3K, because everybody showers praise on Sho all the time. Yo is absolutely great as well, but Sho, at the minute, at this stage in their careers anyway, there's no saying that Yo won't learn this later on, but Sho just has something. He's got that fiery, pure babyface spark to his movement in the ring, to his comebacks. Sho's comebacks in a match are like almost nobody's I can think of in 2020. He is a star in the making. The only problem is whenever Sho has a big breakout singles match like this, it's never long before he regresses back to the tag team division alongside Yo. And they're a great tag team, I love them. They're one of the best parts of the New Japan roster today, but at the same time, it's only a matter of time, surely, I can't get that thought out of the back of my head, it's only a matter of time until Sho breaks free and goes out on his own, preferably as a babyface because, that's what he seems the most natural at, but I want to see him have these big singles matches. I want to see him move up through the ranks. But regardless of whether that comes or not, this week was Sho's week, and he is my Wrestler of the Week. Congratulations, Sho. Lovely round of applause for you. That was a bit patronising, that round of applause, wasn't it? Anyway, no league table again this week, but I'll read some names off it. This is, of course, because of the speaking out movement, and it's made some of the league table a little bit inappropriate for now. We'll see what we can do moving forwards, but I just think it's safer and more respectful for now to just highlight some names rather than show the full league table. So in first, Kenny Omega is still there, leading from Cody by 3 points. Tanaka of DDT is in third place, Moxley's in fourth, and the WWE champion Drew McIntyre is in fifth place. It's a pretty stacked top 20, I'm not going to lie, but unlike other years, this year's Wrestlers of the Week is going down to the wire. Maybe because of the lockdown, I don't know, but it's such a close race at the top there between Omega, Cody, Tanaka, Moxley, and Drew. And there's so many more guys who could nip in and steal it at the last minute. So this has been a really exciting year for Wrestlers of the Week, even if it has been a bit of a bad year for wrestling. Thanks very much for watching. That is all for now. I've been Jack from Cultaholic.com. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Don't forget, you can always tweet me if you see any matches you think are worthy of Wrestlers of the Week recognition, at Jack the Jobber on Twitter. And just stay safe out there, stay positive, and I'll see you very soon.